Hello, welcome to Poised Petty. My name is Ellie, and this is my queer diary where I talk about my transition from male to female, boy to babe. I'm trying something new. I want to start doing weekly interviews and showcasing other people's story and their transition and what's going on in their life. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna start doing this weekly. Let me know what y'all think, if you like it, if you want to see more people. Today's or this the first guest I'm having, I'm very excited. It is Vera Wylde. Um, she's been all over the internet. She's got a few channels. I will show them here, but I am very grateful and very thankful. She actually reached out to me on socials about I've made a post about looking for a guest, and so I'm very grateful that she reached out. So she is my first guest. Please be patient. I've never interviewed anyone before, but it was very exciting, and I hope y'all like the interview. So we will get into it. Okay, well, thank you for joining me. I think this is the
Sure.
first time that we've actually talked.
It is, yes.
I think we are mutuals on what, Twitter, FetLife, TikTok, I think most of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm barely on Twitter anymore, but yeah.
Same, yeah. I think I'm more on Blue Sky now. Yeah, so thank you for joining me. I want to start getting more into interviewing other people, other um, trans people on their journey and their experience on transitioning. So,
hmm
if you could introduce yourself and yeah, we'll start there.
Sure. Are you recording from your end
I
or?
am, yes, I'm all good
All
on
right.
my side.
So my name is Vera Wylde. I am trans feminine. I am gender fluid. I'm 43 years old, and yeah, I professionally I make a lot of internet nonsense.
Don't we all? So, I guess, so where are you from and how was your world growing up?
Well, I grew up in Vermont,
Okay.
which is also where I live now. I haven't lived in Vermont continuously that whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but I grew up in Vermont, and um, I grew up growing up. I was an only child to a single mother, which meant that I had a lot of time alone in the house. So,
Mm.
like at younger ages of like 11 or so, things like going into her room and trying on some of her dresses weren't something that I thought very much about what I was doing. Like I think I had enough of a sense of it being unusual that it wasn't something that I at the time was talking to her about or really talking to anybody about.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I've always been really grateful for both my mother and my grandparents, with how I was raised, was I never felt any sense of shame around that. Like even from a young age, I did get a sense of like this feels private,
Mhm.
but there was never shame attached to that. So that
Okay.
was me growing up. Um, Unfortunately, eventually my mother married someone, and when my stepfather around, who was a man I did not get along with,
Oh no.
and I, again, I didn't at the time. I didn't think I was like I knew what transsexual was. I had a very reductive idea of what that meant, but
Okay.
in the strictest sense, I did know what it was,
Mhm.
and it just never occurred to me that I was that. Like
Mm.
at the time, again, keeping my age in mind, transgender wasn't really a word I heard until I think well into my 20s. So when I was younger, was transsexual was what I was aware of. And again, it never even occurred to me that that was me. But at the same time, I did understand the perceptions of a boy who had a draw towards femininity and my stepfather was a homophobic piece of shit.
Oh.
And so with more people in the house and fewer times felt alone and safe, it all kind of tapered off for a while, basically until I was in college, and then started dipping my toes back into that again. And sort of short version of going further down the line, it would be something that I would start to explore in various ways, but it would take me a long time, like a shockingly long time in hindsight, to actually come to the conclusion that I was actually trans.
Mm. Was there
That
like
took
a
a while.
was there some sort of hesitancy on accepting it?
I think a lot of it was starting from a very reductive understanding of what that even was.
Okay.
Like trans as an umbrella term was something that I didn't really, well, I don't want to say that nobody like understood it at that point, like 90s into the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It certainly felt like nobody else understood it, but at the very least I could say that I didn't understand it as a blanket term, as an umbrella term. In my mind, for a very long time I had a very rigid line, like, if I don't want to get rid of my penis, then I can't be that. And I
Mm.
don't want to get rid of that. So clearly I'm not that. Like, I'm
Ah.
something, but I can't be that, because in my mind, that was the requirement, was if not to get the surgery, to at least want it. And I didn't.
Yeah.
Still
Okay.
don't.
Yeah, I guess I would say I'm pretty similar to um yeah, thinking the idea of being trans or gay or a specific identity having those requirements. But yeah, it is very different for everyone. You don't have to want that or
Yeah.
need to get that. Yeah.
So funnily enough, you mentioned gay. Like, I understood myself as bisexual from like the age 12.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I never had any struggle with that.
Uh, hmm.
Like, well, to the extent of which I struggled, it was eventually over time realizing, like, okay, I am sexually attracted to men sometimes. I am almost never romantically attracted to men, and I have much stronger attractions to women. But like,
Oh.
still understanding that there was an attraction there, I had an understanding of that from a very young age, which in an odd way I think might have even contributed to my like delaying coming to an understanding of myself as trans, because it's one of those things like, well, I figured that out so quick and so early, like I can't be so confused that I don't realize I'm this thing. That's
Oh.
ridiculous.
Well, I think that definitely um maybe not proves the point, maybe that's not the right word, but it really shows the difference between your orientation and your identity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of things I had to decouple, and like it's part of why when I came to a better understanding of myself as a gender fluid person and as a trans person, I did a fair few videos that were kind of explainers, and they weren't really, they were basically aimed at the kind of things I wish I'd found earlier. And I'd even been, even before I knew I was trans, I'd been doing cross-dresser advice videos back when
Oh.
I was so certain I was a cisgender man who cross-dressed and did drag. That doesn't mean I'm not a man.
Mm.
And to be clear, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not a man. You can be a cisgender man and like to cross-dress or do makeup or do drag. That just wasn't what I was, even though I was telling
Mm.
myself that.
Mm-hmm.
But I going back to when I started doing those videos, the intended audience was always, these are the videos that I wish I could have found like 5 to 10 years ago. And so when I came to understand myself as gender fluid, I then started making, broader explainer videos. And one of the things that I was really sure to talk about a lot when I started making those was being trans as a concept is an umbrella term, and all it means is that what you are is not what you were assigned at birth. That's literally it. Which to me has made the whole weird side debate of like, are non-binary people trans weird? Because I'm like, well, yes, definitionally they are. Nobody has
Yeah.
non-binary on there. Like, whether or not they want to consider themselves part of the trans community is a different thing. But like, under the terminology, yes. Yes, if you identify as anything other than what was placed on your birth certificate when you were born, yeah, you're trans.
Hello, sorry to interrupt. This is editor Ellie. I just want to say if you're getting anything from this, if you like this, if you want to see more interviews, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. Right now, I love to look at the data and the analytics of the streams, the content. So I like to see seeing the likes, seeing the subscribes. It tells me that you want to see more of this, and I really appreciate it. So let me know, subscribe, like, all of the things. And yeah, let's get back to the interview.
Politics now, like, and it's one of the things that gets me so annoyed when people get gatekeepery about it. It's like, no, like you have to be on hormones, or you have to at least want to be on hormones, or you have to, like, you look too masculine to be trans feminine. Like, okay, would you tell a cisgender woman that she looks too butch and therefore she's not a woman?
Yeah.
I bet you wouldn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that gets into like the whole doing specific things or being certain way, having long hair or being getting into makeup.
Yeah,
Like you don't have to.
you don't have to. Although I think certainly for me that was part of my journey. It's one of the things that's funny for me to look back on. Because when I thought, or at least was telling myself, that I was a cisgender guy who cross dressed, I was doing high femme.
Mm.
I was doing, the wigs, full makeup, shave the legs, shave the chest, high heels, short skirt. I was doing that. I was leaning that far into femininity. And I think part of it was because I knew that my actual day-to-day life was not any of that. And so I
Hmm.
think it was a combination of having, not being raised to understand that being a woman is not just that.
Yeah.
Also, I wasn't strictly trying to be a woman. I was just trying to present feminine at the time. But anyways, like there's this weird antagonism that can come from some places where they're like, what do you just put on heels and a skirt? Is that what you think being a woman is? Like, well, no, but that's what society and entertainment and culture tells me is being a woman. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm going to start with, because nobody is giving me any guidance on this. So I'm kind of back to, like, I do feminine more often than not, but I'm also at this point oddly far more comfortable presenting neutral or masculine than I was even like 5 years ago. So it's
Yeah,
as
I think.
as as feminine has kind of become my default.
Hmm.
I don't get anxious about being
Being.
perceived or doing something that's manly, and I don't feel the need to lean into femininity as much.
Yeah, I think I had a similar thing when I first came out. I think it was such a 180, such an extreme where I came out, I accepted it, and then I was like makeup 24/7, dresses, skirts, and then now as the years have gone on, I'm like I don't need to wear makeup every day or wear dresses. I am okay with wearing, you know, a button-up shirt or pants. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, I think it's interesting to see us grow and evolve throughout our transition.
Yeah. And I do think that some version of that journey is something a lot of us have to go through, because again, like, they say that going on hormones is a second puberty, and like physiologically it is, but there's also just sort of your understanding of what you even are. You're kind of going through that regardless of whether you've gone on hormones, because your understanding of what it is to be this other thing is so underdeveloped. You're kind of starting from a preteen level again and having to go through the journey that, say a cisgender woman would have gone through at 12 or 13.
Yeah, we all go through those awkward phases of we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I'll buy everything in pink. That's pink girl, right? That's it.
I'm done. Uh, do you have any early memories that I know you talked about your videos that you made, but do you have any other early memories that make sense now?
I mean, like, there are pictures of me at like age 3 and 5, like in tutus and stuff that I don't have active memories of, but I look at that and go, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like that's the other thing. There's almost nobody, including my family members and people who knew me growing up, like in grade school or high school, almost nobody has been surprised by this.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's one of those cases where everybody but me knew.
Mm-hmm.
Again, part of that might have just been the time, because the understanding of what trans wasn't as common. I think a lot of them just thought I was gay. um,
Ah.
but I don't know anybody who was shocked, who has
Mm.
found out about this, who knew me when I was younger.
So you're kind of in like a glass closet.
I guess in a way. I mean, like I was also just a flamboyant theater kid growing up. So
Oh, thespian, is that the term?
yes, that is the term.
Gotcha. Have you had any fears that held you back through?
Um, I think there were sort of two major, and I don't even want to say fears, but like hurdles that I had to get over.
Mm-hmm.
One was coming out to my mother,
Mm.
and I didn't actually worry that she'd reject me. I knew she wouldn't. Like I knew for a fact she would not.
Mm-hmm.
But I just knew there were going to be a lot of questions, and at the time I didn't know how to answer a lot of them,
Okay.
or I did answer them to the best I could, because I came out to her initially as a cross-dresser before I came to better understand myself,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was a big enough part of my life at that point that it felt weird that she didn't know. And
Uh,
also it wasn't an innately sexual thing, so it wasn't like sharing a kink
yeah.
with your mother. So but telling her was something that I was very nervous about, just because mostly I didn't want her to worry. I didn't want her to be confused and worrying about me because she didn't understand what was going on. And then sort of the other one was significantly later, when I was a parent, and worrying about how other people would treat my kid once it became better known what I was.
Mm.
Again, not worried about confusing my kid. Like this is we're not together anymore, but their mother and I, from right when they were born, we were like, okay, we are going to introduce, because again, this was like at the tail end of me thinking I was just a crossdresser. But again, this was important enough to me, and she understood that she and I were like, okay, we are going to introduce this concept to them. And so, like, when they were 2, they watched me put on the makeup and put on the wig and put on a dress.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go away and come back looking different. They watched me do that, so they understood this is still me.
Yeah.
This is the same person, even if I look different, and I still love you, and this is still our relationship. So I was never worried about my kid, because, like, as far as my kid is concerned, this is normal. I'm not sure they ever thought it was normal for other families, but they understood it was normal for us.
Yeah.
But I did have a general paranoia about, if I start to become more public, and
Mm.
especially if I start, going on hormones and developing breasts and growing my hair out, and it becomes a matter of I can't be stealth anymore. I didn't really consider myself in the closet, because even when I was cross-dressing, like I wasn't doing it down the street, but I had a YouTube presence that I didn't hide, and I had done some modeling stuff. Like none of it was a secret. I just didn't advertise it.
Yeah.
But once it became something that was no longer a thing that people either found on their own because they looked, or I presented to them under my terms, and it just became a thing that people started to look at me and go, oh, once it got to, I worried about it getting to that point and how it was going to impact my kid's life.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fear.
Mm.
Ultimately, it didn't really. Like, that's not to say that my kid hasn't had difficulties, but they have not been related to this. Yeah, because it turns out that you know, problems, your kid will have a tough time no matter what you do,
Regardless.
because that's growing up.
Yeah, it's life. Yeah. Okay. Um. Yeah, I guess so this next question, you kind of talked about it, um, but transitioning, well, what did that mean to you when you accepted it? Because at first you said because you didn't want the surgery and you still don't, so you weren't transgender.
My entire transition has all been very gradual. And I attribute a lot of that to, I say in the harshest terms, like I didn't want the surgery, but broadly speaking, I didn't really have dysphoria.
Mm.
So the way that I've said it is that for a lot of other people, a lot of other trans feminine people, or trans people in general, is no matter what they later decide about where they're going to land, they know they don't belong where they started. And so there's this instinct to shove themselves away from that as hard as they can. And that alone gives you momentum towards wherever you end up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that momentum because I didn't have a harsh rejection of myself as a man.
Oh, like looking in the mirror didn't bother you?
No, like I can look at it now and realize there was a certain amount of it, but certainly compared to what I hear other people talk about with their dysphoria, it was so minor that it's weird that I have to use the same word as them.
Gotcha.
But like in hindsight, I can look at it and go, oh, that's why I was way more nitpicky about like worrying about my weight and stuff like that. Cause like at this point in my life, I'm the heaviest I've ever been. And I'm also the happiest I've ever been with my body because I look like me, and so I don't care anymore.
Mm.
I can, in hindsight, go back and go, oh, that's why I was more nitpicky about my body, and I didn't realize why I wasn't happy with it. But it wasn't looking in the mirror and being like, this is wrong. It was just little tiny little things. I was like, well, if I can just adjust that or to like lose a couple pounds or build a little muscle here. And I can recognize that now as a very low key dysphoria, but it wasn't a prevalent thing for me at the time. And the result of that overall is that my transition has been incredibly gradual because, as I said, I didn't have that initial momentum of like, get that away from me. And so my transition's been very meandering. I basically found the term gender fluid in my mid 30s. And that kind of hit a light on this idea of like, oh, I don't have to decide what it is. It can
Yeah.
be a range. It can fluctuate. That's actually okay. That's a thing with a name. Oh. And so what happened initially is I initially only went on testosterone blockers.
Mm-hmm.
The idea being that to lower my testosterone so that like and at that point, because at this point I don't use the masculine pronoun at all, and I don't really consider masculinity to be much of who I am. I do consider myself gender fluid, but I used to think I fluctuate, from feminine through non-binary over to masculine. I still fluctuate, just not over to masculine anymore. Now I just
Gotcha.
fluctuate between feminine and non-binary these days. So I still do call myself gender fluid. It's just the range has narrowed.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of going on just the testosterone blockers was to bring my testosterone level down so that basically waking up in the morning, I was starting the day with something more like a neutral. And so from there, I could lean in what direction I wanted, and it would be less work. Because waking up and being like, ugh, I'm a man, meant that if I wasn't feeling like that, it was more work to feel comfortable in my skin with if I was feeling like something else. Whereas if I'm starting from a more neutral
You
position,
got
I'm
more.
like, I can move more freely through that. And then in 2020, a few months before the lockdowns happened, I then got on estrogen after realizing like I don't really identify with the masculinity at all anymore. And so like I was on T blockers for 3 years, I think, before I was on estrogen. So again, the whole thing has been very gradual.
Yeah.
And like the first time that I felt particularly strong dysphoria was after I had been on hormones for a while, and it was because I had to take a trip down south to help a family member out with something to an area where I did not feel safe presenting as
Oh.
myself. And so I pulled my hair back. I got the most boring frames that I still had for my glasses. I wore a binder. And I was miserable.
Ugh.
I really hated it. So funnily enough, while I can look back and see like very low level dysphoria
Yeah.
from when I was younger, trying to present masculine when I felt like I had no choice. Like I can play with masculinity as performance now, but that's under my control.
Yeah.
Going into a situation where I'm like, I need to be perceived as a man to be safe. I hated that so much. And which in a way was kind of a big way of like, yeah, I am doing the right thing with my life because oh my God.
Yeah. I think my transition has been a little similar to yours. You sound like it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, yours has been a lot more exploratory and
Yeah,
kind of
I
gradual and
yeah, I describe it as
kind of feeling,
meandering, but
yeah, feeling
yeah.
out. Okay. And then when you did find out where you felt most comfortable, going into boy mode was just a no.
I also had one time happen where, because of some nonsense, because my pharmacy at the time sucked, and
Uh,
because of when prescription ran out, and then like we hit, I think it was the Thanksgiving holiday,
mhm.
I couldn't renew my T blockers prescription for like a week
Oh.
after it ran out, which meant I felt testosterone in my system again.
Oh.
Oh, I hated that.
Mm.
Oh, I hated every second of that. That was so bad.
Yeah, that's not fun when you don't keep
No.
up with your medication.
Oh, good
Mm-mm.
grief. Feeling that stuff in my system again, it's like it felt like poison. I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. That's wrong.
So you've never had like a light bulb or a light switch moment where it just clicked. It was very kind of flowy.
Yeah, not really. The whole thing has been pretty gradual. I can point to like a handful of individual things that are more notable moments, like seeing Rocky Horror Picture Show at age 13. My mother, of all people, showed me that movie. Or discovering the term gender fluid.
Mm,
There are moments that stand out as being important on the road, but the journey was still pretty slow and meandering.
gotcha. Yeah, and I feel like I don't see or hear a lot of transitions like that. I think on social media, especially on social media, you see people are like 6 months on hormones and they're just a completely different person or they look very different.
Yeah, which, like, to be fair, is totally valid. Like,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
there are plenty of people who know definitively what they are way sooner than I did, and that's fine. But it does kind of get overrepresented in terms of what is seen and discussed,
Yeah.
um, and gets eyes on it. Um, and I have no way of knowing percentage wise how common or uncommon a more gradual journey is, but like I know I fall under a handful of things that you certainly don't see or hear talked about as often, which is late in life transitions. I was mid 30s when I went on T blockers, and late 30s when I got on estrogen. So
Mhm.
definitely by the standards of the internet, I was freaking ancient. So late in life transition, slow meandering transition, not feeling like the fact that I didn't transition sooner is some sort of massive loss in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I can look back and go, yeah, I probably could have sorted some of this sooner. But for me personally in my journey, it doesn't feel like a tragedy that I didn't figure this out sooner.
I agree. I
The
yeah.
Yeah, the phrase that I've used for myself is I was what I was meant to be at the time.
Mm.
And that has continued. It hasn't felt like I've spent this whole time figuring out what I am. It's like I figure out what I am, but what I am is also changing. And that's okay too. I know who I am today. Tomorrow I might be a little different. And we keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That we keep evolving and growing.
Yeah.
So I did I think my there's a timer on my
Yeah,
meeting
I see it.
here. So I think we might get kicked out and I think we can just jump back into another meeting.
Possibly, I don't know.
Oh.
It's when
We'll
when I
figure it out.
when I do my podcast co-host has the professional Zoom that doesn't have the timer.
Oh,
So
yeah, I might have to look into getting that. Um, do, 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 do. Have you had a lot of relationships change throughout your journey?
not as much as you'd think.
Okay.
Again, because like I said, pretty much no one's been fully surprised.
Yeah.
And my kid's mother knew I was a cross-dresser within like a few months of us dating in college. She found that out. Actually, I'll tell the story real quick. She came over my junior year. I had a single. I didn't have a roommate, which meant the room was a disaster. Um, she came over, and I can't remember if I had class or if I had work. It was one of the two, and she
Hmm.
was in my room alone for a bit, and she admirably tried to pick it up, and she found a pair of pantyhose.
Oh.
And I came back and she confronted me with them, saying, "Whose are these?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm already in trouble. I might as well be honest." And I said, "Those are mine." And she just kind of paused, looked at them, and looked at me and went, "Oh, well, that's all right."
Oh.
So, like, that, I obviously, as I said, we're not together anymore, but it's not it's not because of this. Our marriage fell apart for completely different reasons. So this has not really impacted any of my relationships drastically.
Well, that's
And
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's because, and again, maybe this is partially because it's been as gradual for me as it has been, where people have not had to accept a sharply different person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even voice train. I used to pitch up my voice more if you go back like 3-4 years ago, but then I realized I don't actually care. So who am I doing this for? And I stopped.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, it's
I
for
I don't
you.
care.
Yeah. We're kind of doing this all for ourselves, not for
Yeah.
anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, relationships have been stable, like, for the important people in my life, with my mother, with my kid's mother, with my kid, with my closest friends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I always hear a lot of horror stories of people
Yeah.
losing. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, like, I was very fortunate to have a mother who never made me doubt that she would support and love me no matter what. I think basically, like, as long as I didn't do anything horrible to another human being,
You're
she'd still love me.
yeah.
And which is why, like, coming out to her, I wasn't afraid that she'd reject me. I was just afraid of worrying her, because it never even occurred to me that, like, she'd reject me over this. And she didn't, and neither has anybody else, really.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
I suppose the closest would have been, like, at the job, because I never I never officially came out at the last normal job that I have, because at this point, YouTuber is the main thing that I can claim to be in terms of what pays my bills. But I had I had a day job. I worked in sales for 9 years, and I never came out there. I never changed my name there. I never asked for a pronoun change there. But I did start coming into work in makeup and flowier tops
Oh, so
and
you just
cute
let
boots.
it happen.
I never said anything. I made sure that there was nothing against it in company policy. There wasn't. Nobody said anything. I'm sure plenty was said behind my back.
Oh, sure.
Nobody ever said anything. And then I got laid off in the pandemic. Well,
Oh.
officially laid off because of the pandemic. I have my suspicions about that, because the initial round of pandemic layoffs were 2 people, me and a guy who everyone knew was redundant in the design department.
Gosh.
So I'm like,
2 people.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure later they actually let some people go because they had to, but, like, that first round felt like, you just wanted an excuse to get rid of us, didn't you?
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
Whatever. I hated that job anyway.
Yeah, I guess in case we can't get back in, I want to ask some of these final questions. If if someone's listening right now, whether they're in the beginning of their journey or maybe they're unsure, listening to your story, what do you hope that someone can get from listening to your story, your transition so far?
The main thing that I would hope anyone would have to take away from is that you are allowed to figure stuff out on your own timeline. Like, there isn't a template. There is the most common stories, at least the stories that get told most often, certainly. And it can feel isolating if you don't fit that. But your journey is your journey, and it can take however long it takes. It can take whatever shape it takes. It can involve as many dead ends and cul-de-sacs as it takes. One of the things that I've also said is that, people, oh God, it's even weirder now, but, like, 5-6 years ago, I remember having a conversation on another podcast and somebody being like, well, look at this, incredibly high percentage of people who identify as trans or non-binary, like, in this high school range in this area.
Yeah.
I'm like, does that concern you? I'm like, no, that's great. And I say that fully understanding that a huge percentage of them are going to go back to identifying as what they were assigned at birth. And I think that's wonderful because, speaking as someone who actually did this, it's kind of like growing up in your home state. And it's the difference between just never leaving
Mm-hmm.
or leaving,
And coming back.
realizing you liked where you grew up and coming back.
Yep.
One means you just never tried anything else. The other means you tried other things and realized, no, I am very secure with where I started. And if you do that with your gender, that's just going to make you more secure in knowing for certain that's what you were.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, more cis people should explore their gender. I'm not saying necessarily go on hormones. That's a medical level, but like, play around with your gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you come to the conclusion, no, I actually am just a man, I am just a woman, awesome. Now you know for sure. And you're not just assuming because society told you.
Yeah. That reminds me of so I was in the army for 4.5 years, and
That's shockingly common.
right, it is, yeah. And my first unit, I went in and I met my first squad leader at the time, and he said this as a joke, but it stuck with me throughout the years. We introduced ourselves, and I was like a private at the time, and he's like, he, this was in the army, so it was a very different culture. But he's like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, have you ever sucked dick before?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, how do you know you don't like it?" And he said that like jokingly, just fucking with people. But I was like, that. I mean,
It's true though.
yeah. I was like, he's kind of got a point. I mean, just try things, play with your life and who you
like,
are.
Especially if you are open to a broader spectrum of gender. If it's like that, well, I don't find men attractive. Like, there are girls with dicks too. Come on.
Yeah.
Live a little.
Live a little. It's 2026 now.
Oh, God.
Yeah, right? As of, what, 16 hours ago? It's 2026.
Yeah.
So, in case we do get kicked off, I think we got a minute. Where can people find you? What plugs you got?
So Vera Wylde, you can find stuff on YouTube, on TikTok, on Blue Sky, and a whole bunch of spicy places, including OnlyFans, ManyVids, Clips for Sale, Bentbox, and Pornhub.
Okay, I'll definitely put a lot of that in the description on what I can put in the description.
Whatever
Yeah,
you're allowed to.
right. Thanks for doing this. You are my first interviewee or interviewer. Yeah, I'm excited to continue interviewing and getting other stories from people. So thank you for being here.
Happy to do it.
All right.